Okay. Good morning. Thank you to Stuart and Peter for inviting me here. I'm really excited to be here. I'm going to talk about some work that I'm doing through the Schoenberg Institute for Manuscript Studies at the University of Pennsylvania. I am the curator for digital research services there, and basically I play with manuscripts. I play with I don't play with them, but I touch them and I enjoy them anyway, I'm going to leave that. And I also do a lot of digital work. So I'm going to talk about two of the projects that I have going on right now. One is visualizing collation, and the other is working with video, which is still a little bit experimental, and I'm curious to know what people think about that. So the mission, not the mission of the Institute, but my own sort of personal mission, is to celebrate the physicality of manuscripts in ways that traditional manuscript publication projects don't really. And when I say traditional manuscript publication projects, I mean digital ones, and I'm talking about things like this, which you've all probably seen. Something like this. This is Pen in Hand, which is the University of Pennsylvania's manuscript publication system. So most of our medieval manuscripts now are scanned and are available through this. And what you do is you find the one that you want, and then you can page through it. And we do have images of the binding as well, sort of the front page, and then the fly leaves, and then the back. But there's not a whole lot that you can do with it. You can zoom in and out and look at the text, which is really great if what you're interested in is the text. If you're interested in the book as a physical object, it's not quite as useful. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to think of ways that I can digitize this, sort of broadly conceived, digitize manuscripts in ways that makes the physicality more apparent when you're looking at a manuscript on a computer. So one project that I have going on right now is what we're sort of calling collation visualization. And it's not just me. I have a little team that I'm working with. Doug Emery is the programmer at Sims. Alberto Campagnolo, some of you in this room probably know him. He did his master's degree at King's College London in Digital Humanities, and he's now working as a book conservator in the Vatican, and he's also, I understand, like just getting ready to submit his PhD. His PhD is on visualizing bookbinding, so he was sort of an obvious person to involve in this project. And then Dennis Mullen is the web developer at Sims, and he makes our online presence look nice. So if it was just me, this wouldn't look quite so nice. So the issue that we have in this project is how to visualize the collation of manuscripts. And I'm talking about the physical collation and not the textual collation. That confuses people sometimes. And we do this in two ways. One way is by having diagrams, so you can sort of look at a quire, and you'll see several in a minute. Look at a diagram and say, okay, here's a quire, and here are the folios in the quire, and you can see where there are folios that are missing. And also a page layout view, where I actually take the digital images, the same digital images that are available in our page turning system, but organize them in a different way so that you can sort of see how it might look if you actually took the book apart and laid the bifolio out. And this is how it looks. I'm not sure why there's that band across the top, but I hope you can sort of see it. Anyway, the diagram is over on the left, and the active bifolio is highlighted. That just means that where there's a white line, that's the bifolio that you're looking at right there. And you can see the one on the top, and then it moves, and now we have a full bifolia. When folios are missing, there's just this sort of blank with an X on it, so you know there's not actually a page there in the book. And then the outside of the bifolia is shown first, the outside being the side of the bifolia that faces the binding, and then the inside is the part that faces the inside of the book, and you just flip it over. So here's the outside, and then you flip it over, and there's the inside, and the numbers are right there. So we have 115 verso, 115 recto, 116 verso, and 121 recto, and then we flip it over to 121 verso and 116 recto. So I hope it's kind of clear. It usually takes people a minute to figure out what exactly is going on, but that's what's going on here. And obviously, this is not a view that you would see in a page turning system. And the only time you'll ever see facing pages in here is when you get to the middle of a choir, and that's the one that you'll see. So why on earth would you want to do this? I wanted to do it because when I was just starting out, my first few years, I was at the University of Kentucky, and there was a professor in the art department named Ben Withers, and he wrote a couple books actually, on the Old English Hexateuch, the illustrated Old English Hexateuch that's at the British Library. And I read this book and I loved it, but it was kind of hard for me to understand what was going on sometimes because I didn't actually, not only did I not have the book in front of me, I didn't have the book in front of me taken apart in ways that let me sort of understand the arguments that he was making. His book is basically about dating the manuscript, given evidence within the construction, the way the manuscript was constructed, and particularly the way the illustrations and the text interact across choirs. So that was why I got into it. But as I've been doing this and talked to people and tried out different things, there are actually a lot of different things you can do with this. One, of course, is to sort of analyze a single manuscript. Composition practices, collation theories, there are manuscripts that have been taken apart and put back together. And having something like this, you can actually have several different collation formulas that might actually even sort of over time, and then you can put them together and you can say, okay, here's how the manuscript was put together when it was first written, and here is how it was in the 16th century, and now we sort of put it back together in this way. You can also compare possible copies and exemplars, and I'll show you an example of that in a moment. You can reconstruct palimpsests or reconstruct something like that. And you can also recombine fragments. So if you have manuscripts where pieces of it are in different places, you can do this. Of course, you have to have a collation formula in order to do any of this, which sometimes is difficult, particularly with fragments. But if you have that information, it's sort of an interesting, different way to look at these things. So here is a choir from the British Library manuscript that I mentioned a minute ago. It's a little bit stretched out, but you get the idea. So these are 8 and 15, and then we've got 9 and 14 there at the bottom. And you just, if you wanted to, you can see it's very heavily illustrated. And so if you wanted to make an argument, maybe it was written when the folios were apart and then it was put back together. This might help you visualize that as you're doing your work. And then you can show this to people as you're making your argument there. My exemplar example is Harley Salter, which is another British Library manuscript. And this is believed to be, and I guess it is, an exemplar of the Utrecht Psalter. So it's sort of interesting to see how these are actually very different in their collations. And this is the same. Let's see. If you look down here at folio, or at the 2 and 7 by folio, which is down on the left, that's the same as the 2 and 9 by folio in the Utrecht Psalter, and also already we're seeing that this is very different. Now, if you click on that, you'll get a larger view, and then you can even turn it over if you want to see how it looks on the other side. And then here's the same one, or the exemplar on the left in the Utrecht Psalter, and then again we can turn that over. They're completely different, so I don't know what that will tell you, but maybe Will Knoll, who wrote the book on the Harley Psalter, could find something to do with this. Now this is an interesting one. This is the Archimedes palimpsest, and the Archimedes palimpsest actually exists in it's a 13th century prayer book now, and over 10 years there was a project to do all sorts of special imaging to pull out these, in some cases, lost texts of Archimedes. And as part of that project, in addition to doing all of the imaging, they reconstructed the original physical collation of that manuscript. And so what I did is I fed the collation formula in, and then I pulled in the images that are living out on the digital Archimedes server, and this is what we have with that. So that's sort of interesting. It's interesting thinking that it's been, however, 1,000 years since the manuscript was actually constructed like this, and you can see it now. And finally, here's an example of a manuscript where we have folios that are in different places now. So this is Galen. It's actually another palimpsest, although this is the overtext text that we're looking at here. Some of the folios are in the Vatican, and I'm forgetting where the other ones are, but you can see, because of the digitization practices at the two institutions, they actually look very different. So it's sort of an interesting example, but here we can sort of see the construction even though the folios are no longer attached to each other. And then this last one is the most recent thing that we've been doing is looking at how we can use this to view manuscripts that read right to left. So this is an Arabic manuscript from the Penn collection, LJS 37, and it looks the same. In fact, the one thing, I was just talking to Alberto yesterday, and the one thing that I think we need to do is to flip the diagram so it goes the other way. So right now, if you're looking at this, you're reading, the top is actually the back of the choir. I'm very Western centered, the back of the choir being the front of the Arabic choir. So it's sort of but if you turn it around, I think that becomes a little more obvious. I had to mock this up because the system that I have that I feed things into only works right to left. Sorry, left to right. And so how does the system, yes, how does the system work? So right now, what we do is we have a TEI manuscript description that has, basically all that has in it is a collation formula. And if you're interested in what exactly that collation formula is, you can ask me about it in Q&A. Because I want to actually get away from using a collation formula as the way to get things in here, because people in manuscript studies, there are lots of different ways to write out your manuscript collations. And so being dependent on a certain formula is actually really bothersome for me. But anyway, right now you do have to have a formula in a specific format, and you put it in. And then you also have to have a list of images in a particular format, images that are keyed to folio numbers. And this is another thing, that the manuscript needs to be foliated. If it's paginated, numbered 1 through however, instead of rectos and versos, it doesn't work. But you feed that in. There's a pipeline of XSLT. It's in XSLT because that's the language that I know, not because there's anything special about XSLT. And then there's a HTML, CSS, JavaScript output that is sort of a full site. There's one page for each choir, and then you can page through and see that. The initial test input that we were using was the Digital Walters data set. The reason that we use Digital Walters is because it's open access, so all the images are out there and we can grab them really easily, and because they use a consistent collation formula, so it was easy to say, well, we're just going to base our system on their collation formula. Then, as you can see from the examples I've been showing, there are actually a lot of other ones that we've been feeding in as we're testing how to make it work more effectively. So I did say that I want to get away from the collation formula, and this is sort of the next, I guess, 0.2 system that we're going to be working on. At the moment, this is sort of a mock-up of how it will look. We're not quite there yet. Basically, this will be open, and anybody could come. You could come to our site. You provide a manuscript title. You provide a URL that points to a record, whether it's like a pen and hand record or just a catalog record. And then you say how many choirs your manuscript has, and then you'll get a table that you can fill in. And here I've put in a manuscript from the Bibliothèque in Lausanne, Ramon de la Rose manuscript, and then you fill in the number of positions that a choir has, the number of positions being the number of folios it would have if it were complete. So even if there are missing folios, that first example is a good one, 8 positions, but 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are missing, but you want to be able to show them that they're missing. So you put them in. If you have folios that have been added or ones that are canceled. You can put those in as well. And then it will ask, does this look right? And if that looks right, then you do. One of the things that, that we'd really like to add is something, a sort of button over on the far right, where you can say, show me what this choir looks like. And so if I want to see what choir 6 looks like in diagram, I can push it and it will show me a diagram. And then I can say, oh, that's not actually what, because I've got the book in front of me, that's not actually what this choir looks like. So then I can go back and change that information. Then the next step is to get those images, the image list. In this example, all we've done is created an Excel spreadsheet that basically lists your folios in this column, and then you've got links to wherever the image files are in this column, and then you, so that's keyed so that somewhere, because somewhere in my system I know where the folio numbers are in my choirs, and then I say go, collate my manuscript, and it will give me a zip file or some such, and then I open up that zip file, and I've got my collation page, HTML, JavaScript, and if this were you, if you did this, it would give you a zip file, and you can either open that up on your computer and work with it on your computer, or you can put it on your website. You can change the CSS so it doesn't say Schoenberg Institute for Manuscript Studies, so it says my institution or my project. That's really where I want to get, where anyone who wants to can do this on their own machines, in their own homes. The demo site is there, and I can also give this to you later. And the source code, the XSLT source code is on GitHub. But if you're not up for messing with XSLT, wait a few months and there will be a website that you can go to do it yourself. So I've spent most of my time talking about that, but I do want to say a little bit about video. So I see people are still sort of writing out. So yeah, I see a lot of like, I'm good. I am gonna, if everybody ready? All right. So changing paces a little bit. I view video as a way, it's sort of an object-based complement to Penn's digitized images, because I really do get frustrated when I go to eCodices and Pen in Hand and these other sites where I can get really high-quality digital images of pages and I can read them, but really I'm not, it's great to be able to read manuscripts, but that's not actually what I'm interested in. I'm interested in manuscripts as physical things, and thinking about different ways that people, different types of scanning that happens and lots of 3D imaging, and I thought, well, what if you just aimed a camera at a manuscript and turned the pages? And then you can actually see how it moves in real time, and you don't have the, Ben was sort of talking about the issue of publishing an image that's been through Photoshop. Well, if I do a 3D scan of a manuscript, and then I write a script to show how the pages turn when they turn, well, is that actually what the manuscript looks like? Well, now I can kind of show you, at least I can show you what it looked like this one time when I sat down with it and was turning the pages. And so I've got a couple of different things that I'm doing. One of them is what we're calling video orientations. And these are really short. They're about 2 minutes or less. And as you see, we put them on YouTube, and I'll put the URL up at the end. But it's just here's our manuscript. Here's something interesting about it. If you want to know more, you can if you want to know more, you can visit Pen in Hand. There are high-resolution digital images of every page, along with a full description of the manuscript. I say that at the end of every one of these videos. But it's kind of fun, and I got the screenshot here sort of in mid-turn, so you can see how the pages flip around. The videos themselves, they're posted on YouTube. We also put them in our repository at Penn. You can download the video itself, and it's all open access. So if you wanted to, you can download all the videos and, I don't know, splice them together, do what you will. And then we link to them from our OPAC, from our open online catalog. So you can use a Pen in Hand and the Facsimile link, or you can do the video orientation. And at this point, I think we have about 26 of them. A bunch just went up And eventually, it'll take a long time, but eventually we're going to have them for all of our manuscripts. And I think this is, I'm just really excited because it means that you can come here and you can see, okay, how does this manuscript move? How big is it? I mean, that's one thing, like here are my hands and you can see how big it is. So those are the video orientations. The other thing that I'm working on, which is a little more experimental, is a video facsimile. And what this is, it's exactly what it sounds like. I turn on the camera and I put down the book and then I turn the pages from front to back. And every page, then I load the video into Scalar, which is an annotation system that's put out by the University of Southern California. And every page then is annotated. So you can see here, we're at 34. I'm actually turning the page to 33 verso, 34 recto. There's a miniature on that page. If I want to see it, I can click on that link right there, and that will take me to pen in hand. So one of the things that video is good for is to show things moving. It's not that great for this kind of work, the kind of work that you can do on pen in hand where you have high resolution and they were taken under very controlled circumstances and you can zoom in really well. So this was sort of a way to link them together. This is definitely work in progress. You can go see the Scalar site. It's open and you can see these, although they'll change because I'm in the process of sort of figuring out the best way to do the annotations. But if you're interested, that's where you go. And then our YouTube channel, in addition to the video orientations, we also put up videos of events and other things that happen at Penn. So in addition to the orientations, there's a lot of other video material on that site. So that is a little bit about those two projects that we're doing here. If you want to contact me, you can contact me through Gmail or Penn. And I am on Twitter. Leoba is my personal account, and then I also tweet as Sims. So thank you.